Hey there! If this is your first time on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. Thank you. It all happened before my eyes, and no matter how much I try to forget, I just can't stop the pain in my chest each time I remember. The man I gave my life to, the man who promised me forever, I watched him stand on that altar, not with me, but with the rich man's daughter. My name is Nora, and this is my story. We dated for 5 long years, not 5 months, not 5 days, 5 whole years. Through thick and thin, I stood by Edward, the only man I truly loved. He wasn't rich, he didn't have much, but we had love, and to me, that was enough. We lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. We cooked together, we laughed together, and on the days when things were tough, we held hands and promised each other better days ahead. Edward was a dreamer. Every night, he'd talk about how he didn't want to bring a child into this world unless he was financially stable. He'd say, "Nora, I want our kids to have a better life than we had. I don't want them to suffer." I admired that about him. So I did what any loving woman would do. I supported him. We searched for jobs together, week after week, until finally he got a chance. An interview at a mobile gaming company. The role? A social media marketer. At first, I felt bad because I thought he deserved more. But when he came back that night, we had dinner together and he told me the good news. The job pays $1,200 a month. That was a lot for us. Converted to our currency, it was more than we ever had in a month. We celebrated like we had just won the lottery. We were happy. But what we didn't know was that danger was already knocking. At his workplace, I always brought lunch to him. Sometimes jollof rice, sometimes a goosey soup. He'd smile and say, "Thank you, my love," but someone else was watching. Elizabeth, the CEO's only daughter, tall, elegant, powerful, used to having her way. She didn't like how I came around so freely to her father's company. She always frowned when she saw me with Edward. She began to ask questions. Why is this poor girl always here? Can't she let the man focus? She was jealous. Not because I had money, but because I had what she didn't, Edward's heart. One day, she walked into his office and said boldly, "There should be a limit to how your fiancé comes into this company anyhow." Edward apologized politely. "I'm sorry, madam, if it made you uncomfortable." She smiled thinly and walked away. But that wasn't the end. A few days later, her best friend, Becky, came visiting the company. Becky was stylish and bold. The moment Becky saw Edward in his suit, she took off her sunglasses. "Isn't this Edward?" "My old schoolmate," she whispered. Elizabeth noticed Becky's reaction and pulled her aside. "You know him?" "Yes," Becky replied. "He was in my university. Very decent guy. Never chased girls. Always in church. You can't buy him. He's got integrity." Elizabeth's eyes lit up. "Really? That's the kind of man I want. Someone who will love me for who I am, not for what I have." Becky laughed. "Then you better act normal. No flirting, no clubbing. That won't move him." Elizabeth nodded and said, "Maybe I'll promote him and tell him I was the one who did it." That same evening, Edward returned home. I had prepared chicken and salad. After dinner, I asked, "My love, how was work today?" He looked tired but managed to smile. "All went well. Let's just pray and sleep." I agreed. But that night, I had a terrible dream. In the dream, I saw a woman, elegant, dressed in office wear, staring at Edward with deep affection. It wasn't just admiration, it was desire. The next morning, I told Edward, "My love, be careful. I saw something last night. A woman, she wants you. Please don't trust anyone too quickly." He brushed it off with a smile. "I'll be careful, Nora. You know I'd never do anything to hurt you." But I didn't know that fate was already changing paths. Later that day, Edward received an email. He had been promoted. From $1,200 salary to $10,000 per month, from a marketer to the company bursar. It was shocking. He rushed to his office the next morning, and there she was, Elizabeth, sitting confidently in his office chair. "I was the one who promoted you," she said with a smile. "I hope you love the new position." Edward blinked. "Yes, madam." "Please," she interrupted. "Call me Elizabeth." "No, madam." Then she added, "I'd like you to join me for a dinner party this Saturday. Just a small event." Edward hesitated but agreed. After work that evening, he ordered a ride home. What he didn't know was that Elizabeth followed him in her tinted SUV. She watched him walk into our tiny compound. She shook her head and whispered, "A man like this shouldn't live here. I'll buy him a house soon." At home, Edward looked restless. Then he said, "Nora, I need to tell you something about Elizabeth." I looked up. "She's asking you out, right?" "No, not at all. She just invited me to a dinner party. That's all. And I told you because I want to be transparent." I nodded slowly. "If you say so. But don't let your guard down." The next day at work, Edward shared everything with his colleague, Philip. Philip chuckled and warned him, "That girl likes you, bro. I'm sure she wants more than just dinner. Be careful." "I already have a fiancé," Edward said. "I'm working hard so I can marry her. I can't betray her." But fate was about to test his words. Moments later, Elizabeth walked in, this time with a gift. She placed a car key on the table. "It's for you," she smiled. Edward looked at it and froze. A Lexus GX Overtrail, worth 193 million naira. He jumped up in shock and hugged her tightly. Elizabeth smiled and melted into the hug. She had gotten to him, even if he didn't know it yet. Philip shook his head. This kind of gift doesn't come for free. That Friday evening, Edward drove the car home. When I returned from work and saw the luxury SUV parked outside, I was shocked. Maybe a senator came visiting? I entered the house and saw Edward drinking champagne. "My love," he laughed, "this car is ours, worth 193 million. I sat down quietly and asked, "How did you get it?" He poured me a glass and said it was a gift from Elizabeth. My heart sank. "Edward, she's in love with you, and you accepting her gifts, it's dangerous." He hissed and walked out on me. That moment, I knew if I didn't act fast, I might lose him. I couldn't sleep that night. No matter how hard I tried to close my eyes, my mind wouldn't rest. The image of that car outside our small house, Edward hugging Elizabeth, the champagne bottle on the table, his new expensive wristwatch. Everything was changing too fast. The man I used to know, the Edward I loved. He was slipping away. I sat alone in the corner of the room, watching him snore peacefully. Tears rolled down my face. I had a terrible feeling. But I kept telling myself, he will never betray me. Edward is a good man, right? The next morning, he woke up early and dressed sharply. His perfume filled the air. As he buttoned his shirt, I asked softly, "Are you going to the dinner party today?" He didn't look at me for a while. Then he replied, "Yes, just for a few hours. I'll be back early. Don't worry." I forced a smile. "Okay, please be careful." That evening, I waited by the window. Time moved slowly. 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., still no sign of Edward. My heart began to beat fast. Something was wrong. At exactly 11:27 p.m., I heard the sound of his car. I rushed to the window. He stepped out, looking drunk, laughing, holding a bottle of wine, and behind him was Elizabeth's SUV parked across the road. I froze. He walked in, smiling from ear to ear. "Sweetheart, that party was mind-blowing. You should have been there." I didn't say a word. I just looked at him, tears in my eyes. He noticed. "Why are you crying now?" "I didn't do anything wrong. It was just a party," I asked. "Did she touch you?" He paused, then laughed. "Nora, come on. I'm not a child." But deep inside me, I knew something had shifted. The following week, he started coming home late, sometimes 10 p.m., sometimes even past midnight. He said it was company work, but I wasn't stupid. One day, I followed him. I paid a bike man to trail his car. He didn't go to any company. He went to a private estate, and there, outside a mansion, stood Elizabeth in a silk gown, waiting with 2 glasses of wine. They hugged. He kissed her cheek. My heart shattered right there. I didn't confront him that night. Instead, I waited. I waited to see how far he would go. A few days later, he returned with a box. He opened it. Inside was a brand new Rolex wristwatch, another gift from Elizabeth. When I asked why he was collecting these things, he shouted, "Do you want me to stay poor forever?" I broke down in tears. "You said you wanted to be rich before we start a family, but I never thought you'd sell your soul to a rich woman to get there." He looked at me like I was a stranger. "I didn't sell anything. She's just helping me." I stood up, shaking. "She's not helping you. She's buying you, Edward, and you're allowing it." From that day, we stopped sleeping on the same bed. He became a stranger in the house we once called home. No more prayers. No more dinners together. No more, "I love you." Yet one night, I had another dream. This time, I saw Edward, wearing a white suit, standing at the altar, but he wasn't standing with me. He was standing with Elizabeth. They exchanged rings, and I was standing at the back, crying. When I woke up, I screamed. It was 2:11 a.m. I knew what I saw wasn't just a dream. It was a warning. The next day, Edward left the house and didn't return for 3 days. No calls, no messages. When he finally returned, I noticed a shiny new gold chain on his neck. His phone kept buzzing. He smiled at the screen. I didn't ask. I was tired of asking. Instead, I asked something else. Edward, when will you visit my parents like you promised? You said you would come and pay my bride price. He looked at me coldly. I don't know yet. Just like that. No explanation. No softness. Just cold silence. Later that week, I decided to visit the company myself. I wore my best dress and carried lunch like I used to. When I got there, the receptionist said something that shook me. Oh, sorry, Ma. You can't go to Mr. Edwards' office anymore. He left strict instructions. Only authorized persons can enter. I was shocked. Authorized? I'm his fiancé. She looked away. I'm sorry, Ma. At that moment, Elizabeth came down the stairs with 2 security men. She looked at me from head to toe and smirked. Then she said, next time, book an appointment. I swallowed my pride and walked out, heartbroken. That evening, I waited for Edward to come home. When he did, I asked him, why did you block me from seeing you at work? He rolled his eyes. Nora, don't embarrass me. That's my office. You can't just show up like that. That was it. I packed a few clothes and left the house that night. I needed air. I needed to think. But deep down, I already knew. I had lost him. 1 month later, I saw a flyer on Instagram. Wedding ceremony of Elizabeth Adewale and Edward Akena. Date, Saturday, June 24th. Venue, Royal Blossom Event Center. Time, 10 a.m. I collapsed. My heart stopped. He didn't even break up with me properly. He didn't tell me he was leaving. He just left. He left and married the CEO's daughter, and I was nothing but a chapter he had closed. I stood outside the event center that morning. Not to fight, not to scream, just to watch from a distance. He looked so happy in his white suit. And she, Elizabeth, she wore the most expensive lace gown I had ever seen. People clapped, music played, and right there under the tent, they said, I do. As they kissed, my heart tore into pieces. I had loved him. I had helped him rise, and he rewarded me with betrayal. Now every night when I close my eyes, I see them, smiling, living in a mansion I helped him dream of, but it's okay, because I know one thing, God sees everything. And someday, somehow, he will remember me. To be continued. If this episode touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to this channel. Episode 3 will be deeper, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Thank you for watching.